Hello, and welcome to Cindy's Corner. Today, boys and girls, if you have the book Growing Apples and Pumpkins, go get it so that you can follow along. It is fall, and that means autumn, and we have good fruit coming and growing and picking and eating. Um, let's read Growing Apples and Pumpkins. Growing Apples and Pumpkins by Amy and Richard Hutchings. That means they're our authors. And our photographs are by Richard Hutchings. Meet farmer Scott Applegate, his wife Lisa, and their sons Kyle and Mitchell. Soon they'll welcome a new baby to the family. Scott and his family grow apples and pumpkins on a farm in New Jersey. It's the end of February and the snow is gone. Mitchell and his mom look at buds on the apple trees, all shut tight from the cold winter. By springtime, the buds will open into blossoms. Later, they will grow into apples. Scott checks out the farm with Kyle and Mitchell along for the ride. Winter is almost over, and soon Scott can plant new young apple trees called saplings. By the middle of March, it's time to plant the new trees. Scott gets a lot of help from farm workers Carlos and Jose. Scott drives his tractor over the fields. At the back of the tractor is a tree planter that plows a ditch in the soil. Carlos sits on the tree planter and places a sapling in the ditch along every 12 feet. After the small tree is put into the ditch, Jose straightens the tree and packs the moist soil around it. When the trees are firmly planted, they're ready for pruning. Scott cuts them back about 6 inches. Now he has to take care of the older trees. Scott prunes the weak limbs so that only the strong limbs will be left to grow. He places spreaders between the branches of the younger of the trees, forcing them to grow horizontally. This way, a lot of sunlight can reach the branches and more fruit will grow. Scott always wraps the tree trunks with tree guards to keep animals from eating the bark and hurting the trees. April brings good news. Lisa has a baby girl, Jessica. May brings warmer, longer days, and the apple trees have begun to flower. See the flowers? Kyle and Mitchell love to play in the flowering orchard with their friend Maggie. Scott has a beekeeper move beehives into the orchard. Bees are great helpers in the orchard. These insects carry flower pollen from one tree to another, making more flowers bloom and allowing more apples to grow. The flowers grow in groups of 5. The first flower to bloom is called the king blossom. The king blossom has the best chance of growing into an apple. Scott uses a selective spray to knock off the other blossoms. This is called thinning. Fewer apples will grow, but those that do will be bigger and more colorful. Also, the tree limbs won't break from the weight of too many apples. Isn't that apple blossom pretty? The apples have just started to form when Scott gets the ground ready for planting pumpkins. First, he must turn over the soil. He hooks up a disc harrow to his tractor. The strong metal disc dig into the dirt and turn it around, bringing the soil from the bottom up to the top. This helps to loosen the soil so that the plants grow. The roots will spread more easily. Next, Scott uses a spreader to add fertilizer containing nutrients to the soil. On a sunny day in June, Scott prepares to plant the pumpkin seeds. Mitchell watches closely as Scott smooths over the loosened soil with a spring-tooth harrow. This rakes the soil and makes it even. Then Scott fills the planter with seeds. This planter crosses back and forth over the field and digs trenches 2 inches deep. 2 inches. About every 3 or 4 feet, it drops a seed into a trench, then covers it with dirt. Every year, Scott plants extra large pumpkins called Atlantic Deal Giants. This year, Mitchell gets to plant one of his own. Mitchell won't use the planter. He wants to plant it with his hand, his seed by hand. The sun, rain, and nutrients in the soil give the seeds what they need to open and grow. In 2 weeks, presto, the seeds have sprouted. The pumpkin plants grow really fast. By the middle of July, they start to flower. There are female flowers and male flowers. The females are the ones that can become pumpkins. Scott brings the bees in to help grow more pumpkins. Meanwhile, Kyle and his friend Hector check on the apples. During July, the apples and pumpkins continue to grow. The boys have fun playing baseball and football in the orchard. Mitchell looks in on his pumpkin. Like everything else in the field, it's getting bigger. By August, the apples are starting to change colors. Scott grows different kinds of apples. Rome Beauties and Red Delicious apples change from green to red. The Golden Delicious apples change from green to gold. And the Granny Smith apples just stay green. The apples aren't ripe yet, but the kids can't help climbing the trees to check. It's late August. Some of the pumpkins have grown as big as basketballs, but they are not quite ready to be picked. They will grow much bigger and turn bright orange. Mitchell stops by to see his pumpkin again. It's getting bigger still. As September arrives, the kids go back to school. The days are shorter and the weather is colder. Lisa visits the orchard with baby Jessica. Scott brings the boys to the field at the end of the day. He tells Mitchell excitedly, "Go, take a look at your pumpkin." "It's ready," Mitchell cries as he stands on it in triumph. "It's bigger than I am." Then he and Kyle try to move the big pumpkin. In October, Scott Applegate and his family look on with pride as friends and neighbors come to their farm to pick the beautiful apples and pumpkins. They watch as hundreds of visitors spend golden afternoons filling buckets with the ripe apples and carrying the pumpkins from the field. It's been a busy period with lots of work and worry, but the harvest has gone well. Now the Applegates can take some time off and rest until next February, when they will start growing apples and pumpkins all over again. How many of you have eaten apples lately? Fresh apples, or made something special out of your apples? Apple pie, apple butter, apple cider. Yeah, perhaps caramel apples. How many of you have had caramel apples? Dip it in caramel? That's good stuff. And then you have pumpkins. And maybe you have pumpkins to decorate with your corn stalks, or perhaps you're saving your pumpkin to make a jack-o'-lantern in October. Tell me what your family does with pumpkins and apples, or draw me a picture. Make sure to give me a thumbs up and tell people, your friends, about Cindy's Corner, and make sure you subscribe. And teachers and parents, let me know if there's a special book you would like for me to read, or a special project that you're doing, and I'll see if I can help. Have a great day and enjoy the harvest.